More reactions trail Tinubu's presidential pardons as many allege injustice. ASU begins 2-week national industrial strike as federal government activates no work, no pay policy. Works Minister Umahi finally bows to pressure, reveals cost per kilometer for project. And on the foreign scene, world leaders signed Gaza deal in Egypt as Israel and Hamas swap prisoners. Hello, good evening, and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. Now, more reactions have continued to trail the presidential pardons granted to dozens of convicted criminals, including drug traffickers, with many alleging that the move is an affront to justice and morality. The presidency, shortly after releasing the list of 175 individuals granted the 2025 presidential pardon, came under fire from many quarters, while on the flip side, many have hailed the move. In this report, we bring you some of these reactions as well as a legal opinion on the matter. The report.
Among those released are the late nationalist Herbert Macaulay, the late Major General Maman Vatsa, and Miriam Sanda, who was sentenced to death for killing her husband. The pardon, which also included presidential clemency, covered more than 30 convicted drug offenders and several others jailed for crimes such as homicide, fraud, and illegal mining. The development has sparked widespread criticism and debate across the country. Among those who have kicked against the move are the kinsmen of the late activist Ken Saruwiwa, who rejected the pardon and instead asked for a retrial of the case.
I think in my common sense, you only grant pardon to somebody that committed an offense. And that's why we're saying that if Mr. President does not know what to do, maybe that's where his power ends in their book. But I think government has a way of working around anything they want to do, anything they want to achieve. They have a way of going around that.
Legal academicians and civil society accept that the president has constitutional authority to grant pardons, but warn that such decisions will have grievous implications, especially in cases that have to do with murder.
It's just chaos. You are creating a chaotic situation in the system, overheating the polity or something. A human being now that is contemplating doing a thing like that will now see this thing that is happening as I may actually get off the hook if I execute this thing. You know, it's going to be a very serious problem in the society from my own point of view. You know, the laws are there. And if the law say do this, do what the law says you should do.
Critics have cautioned that the power of prerogative of mercy should not be abused by leaders in the country, maintaining that individuals convicted of embezzling public funds or committing murder should not benefit from presidential pardon. The pardon for Miriam Sanda, a lady convicted and sentenced to death by the FCT High Court on Monday, 27 January 2020, for the premeditated and cold-blooded murder of her husband, stands as one case where the president's action has awakened old wounds and traumatized relatives. Family of the late Biliamino Ahmed Bello, in a statement, described the pardon as the worst possible injustice any family could be made to go through for a loved one.
The recent presidential pardon by Bola Tinubu has polarized public opinion, with Nigerians expressing mixed views on the benefits of the action. In this explainer, Abdullahi Ahmed takes a look at the controversial names included and the crimes committed. Take a look.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to grant pardon and clemency to 175 convicts, including those convicted of murder, corruption and treason, may be constitutional, but it has sparked unease across the country. At a time when insecurity, corruption and violent crimes still define daily life for many Nigerians, the message this mass pardon sends feels troubling. Now, the data shows that drug offenses top the pardon list, with 70 inmates representing 40% freed. Illegal mining comes next with 60, that's about 34%, followed by financial and white-collar crimes at 30, representing 17%. Most disturbing, however, are the 25 convicts representing 14% pardoned for violent crimes including murder, kidnapping, and armed robbery. Among the more controversial beneficiaries are people convicted of violent crimes. Mariam Sanda, sentenced in 2020 for culpable homicide, served just 6 years and 8 months. Benjamin Ekeze, sentenced to death in 2017 for armed robbery and conspiracy. He spent 12 years on death row at the Kirikiri prison before his sentence was commuted to life. Kelvin Prosper Oniara was one of Nigeria's most feared kidnap and robbery kingpins. Arrested back in 2013 by a joint team of the Army and DSS, he was behind a string of high-profile kidnappings, including that of barrister Mike Ozekome, SAN, and the murder of former Anambra Deputy Governor Dr. Chudi Nwike. His gang killed several police and military officers and operated detention camps across Delta, Edo, Benue, and Abia states. Before his capture, Kelvin had at one point issued a 60-day ultimatum to the federal government threatening mass violence if his arrested gang members were not released. Now, 12 years in prison, he has been granted presidential clemency. The official reason given was that he has shown remorse and is furthering his education through the National Open University of Nigeria. A decision many see as a mere slap on the wrist, considering the gravity of his crimes. But perhaps the most telling of all these cases is that of barrister Hussaini Umar, convicted in 2023 for laundering 1.1 billion naira. He was accused of falsely claiming to represent the Nigeria Customs Service in a 1.1 billion naira housing deal. Now, less than 2 years later, he's been asked to pay the ICPC 150 million naira and then walk free. A small price compared to the sum he was charged with laundering. Meanwhile, thousands remain imprisoned across Nigeria for petty theft, minor drug offenses, or non-violent misdemeanors. People whose lives have often been irreversibly damaged, while more serious offenders receive presidential mercy. The same presidential list also extended posthumous pardons to long-dead figures such as Major General Mamman Vasta, executed back in 1986 for alleged treason, and Ken Saro-Wiwa alongside the Ogoni Nine, who were hanged in 1995 by the Abacha regime. While the clemency for these activists and soldiers carry moral weight, correcting historic injustice and healing old wounds, the inclusion of those convicted of grave contemporary crimes blurs that line between justice and sentiment. The Constitution does give the president the power to show mercy, but mercy, according to most, must strengthen justice, not weaken it. When those convicted of killing, stealing public funds, or peddling hard drugs are freed after short sentences, it does undercut the rule of law and erode public trust in the justice system. In contrast, thousands of poor Nigerians languish in prisons for petty offenses, some awaiting trial longer than their crimes warrant. They rarely get presidential attention. No committees sit to consider their conduct or age. For them, mercy is a luxury reserved for the influential. Still, the posthumous forgiveness of national heroes like Herbert Macaulay, convicted by colonial authorities back in 1913, stands out as a thoughtful gesture. It honors the memory of one of Nigeria's founding figures and restores dignity to names that helped shape the nation's struggle for freedom. But even such symbolic gestures cannot overshadow the deeper concern. In modern Nigeria, justice appears flexible for the powerful and unbending for the powerless. Presidential pardon should correct injustice, not reward notoriety. Mercy should comfort the wronged, not the wrongdoer. When nearly 3 out of every 4 pardons benefit offenders involved in drugs, illegal mining, and white-collar crimes, it raises the question, is this mercy or moral compromise? President Tinubu's gesture may be lawful, but for many Nigerians, it feels like justice has been compromised.
Now joining us to discuss this is Barrister Mutiu Akinsanya. Good evening and thanks for joining us on the News Hour.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Okay. Now from a legal perspective, what do you make of these presidential pardons?
Clearly, the Constitution empowers the President to grant presidential pardon. Section 175 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 gives the President the power to grant pardon to convicts and to anybody who has committed any offense, no matter the gravity of the offense. So all that the President has done is within the powers that the Constitution has granted to him. And of course, it must be done in consultation with the Council of States. And I believe the President also consulted the Council of States in the last meeting they held. And the Council of State must have agreed with him before the pardon was finally approved. And if you look at those who are members of the Council of State, you also see that they are past presidents, governors, the Attorney General of the Federation, and a host of other people who are stakeholders in Nigeria. So it's not, in my opinion, a unilateral decision. It's a decision that the President has carried out in consonance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We must also note that this presidential pardon is also something that is in the Constitution of other countries. The United States of America has similar provisions. Countries like Brazil, India, and so many countries across the world have these provisions. And we've seen the heads of those countries or the president of those countries utilizing these powers from time to time to free convicts or to commute their sentences. So basically, if we speak of the law, not from the moral angle, if we speak about the law, the president has not violated any law. All he has done is in accordance with the law, particularly the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's also important to know that even state governors are also granted such powers. So if tomorrow we see any state governor also exercising such powers over crimes that are legislated upon by the state houses of assembly, those acts are also within the acts or within prerogative of mercy that can also be granted by our respective state governors.
All right. Now, for families who are dissatisfied with this, presidential pardons, talking about the family of Mariam Sanda and also the family and friends of the Ogoni Five, is there any legal pathway to seek redress, or it is what it is?
I think it is what it is. Except if the president decides to take back his pardon. The president, from the Constitution, has the powers to grant that pardon, which he has done. If the president, in his wisdom, also feels that he wants to take it back, I'm sure the president can also take it back. But again, it must be done again in consultation with the Council of States. Because like I said earlier on, it does not look like it's a unilateral decision. It's a decision that the president can only reach in consultation with the Council of States. But you see, the thing about our Constitution is that the Constitution did not say whether if the Council of States disagrees, whether the president can still go ahead or not. But I think the buck stops on the president's table, and the president's decision on matters of pardon remains final. I must also say this is not the first time we're seeing this in Nigeria. We have seen it in the past. You recall even President Goodluck Jonathan pardoned Governor Lamesia of his home state at that time. So it's a reoccurring thing in Nigeria. I think this the first time we're seeing these large numbers. But if you look at other climes like the United States of America, you even see state pardon going to more than 1,000, more than 2,000, and so on and so forth.
All right, so finally, what is the take home from this episode?
Can you come again, please?
Yeah, I was like, what is the take home from this episode moving forward?
I think the take home from this is that all of us as Nigerians must see ourselves as stakeholders when it comes to nation building. Our laws are there. Whatever law we feel dissatisfied with, we should begin to champion the cause of reforming those laws, amending them, or taking them completely out of our jurisprudence. Time again and again, the National Assembly will call for constitutional amendments. So for some of these things that so many of us as Nigerians cry about, we should not just cry on the pages of newspapers or on the screen of our television. We should ensure that we follow up with the National Assembly to do the necessary amendments if we're not satisfied with them. And we must also evolve as a nation. Some of these provisions we have in our constitution are provisions that we simply copied from some other countries across the world. We must now look at ourselves and make laws that are in tune with what we believe in and with what we're all convinced about in Nigeria. So I think reformation in our laws is the way to go. But as it is today, the law is the law. And whatever anybody does that is in consonance with the law, the person has not committed any crime if we look at it from the legal spectrum.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Mutiu Akinsanya, for joining us and for giving us your insight. All right, moving on to another story. Members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, on Monday commenced a 2-week warning strike across the nation, alleging federal government's reluctance to meet their demands despite efforts by federal government officials to meet with the union to avert the action. The warning strike was announced by the national president of the union, Professor Chris Piwuna, while briefing newsmen in Abuja. The report.
Declaring the position of ASU, Piwuna said the action became necessary because federal government failed to meet their demands after a 14-day ultimatum earlier issued lapsed. As a result of the declaration, members of the union across the country shut down academic activities. At the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, members of the union said they will not be rattled by the no work, no pay by the federal government and urged their members to continue to comply with the industrial action which paralyzed academic activities at the university.
Definitely the issue of federal government, no work, no pay, has been taken seriously by union, but this is not the first time, it's not the second time. It's not even the third time we are used to it. We are not rattled. It has happened. Don't forget that last strike we spent 8 months without salary. So it has either been 4 months or 8 months, or in some cases even.
I'm not happy with the strike because it's causing much delay to our progress.
Really speaking, we feel very bad about this strike and all of them, because most of us are approaching our exam. We're supposed to write our exam today, and unfortunately the strike started.
Due to this strike, the exam has been postponed and we don't even know when they will fix the exam timetable again.
As a final year student, ready to defend projects soon, I think this strike is actually affecting us generally because of even the defense that has been postponed.
At the University of Jos, the lecturers rose from a meeting held at the ASU Secretariat of the university and threw their support behind the call by their national president for the strike.
The offer they have made to us recently is a unilateral offer and it's unacceptable. We want them to return to the renegotiation table where the Alhaji Yayale Ahmed draft report or agreement is the reference point. Government cannot come and give us a unilateral offer in a process of collective bargaining, and you expect us to just accept it because we don't want anybody to think we are adamant.
When we do those sacrifices, they are not sin. When you say no work, no pay, did we move when the students we left on that 8 months returned back? Did they go for youth service? They went. It means somebody graduated them. Did the 200 level, 100 level move to 200 level? They did, because results were announced. If we do it any other way, then we have not helped, we have not done justice.
But again, you also need to also understand the law as it relates to workplaces. That we've given a notice. Normally in any system, once you work 14 days, you're entitled to your salary. But because we've given them a notice, and the notice is on their actions that are not supposed to be so we're reacting to their misbehaviors. And over time, the union has been patient.
At Bayero University, Kano, where the commencement of the strike coincided with students embarking on a one-week break following the completion of their exams, students still expressed concern over the impact of the strike on academics and called on the government to engage lecturers to ensure a swift resolution.
No, yeah, of course, I've seen the circular that said no pay, and that is not a new thing. That has been an old tactics by the government to coerce us into going back to the classroom. What we normally tell the government is, if you say no pay, you also say no pay, no work. So if you didn't pay us, also not to work for you.
In Gombe State University, the students are, however, worried that the industrial action has their academic journey and appealed to parties involved to take them into consideration and resolve all pending issues.
Just of a sudden, after what we have agreed with them, they brought up a document that the union is not aware of it. And on the basis of the directive of the union national leadership, we have given them a lot of time in order to see that they have implemented what they have negotiated with us, but still not.
The same thing the ASU they are requiring or they are demanding is the same thing with us, because there is a agreement, 2009 agreement, that is signed between both the unions of the university, but up to date, it was not implemented 100%.
We have the first class, but now, due to the issue of this strike, the class cannot hold. We stay here for almost 2 hours and the lecturer has not come.
I believed all this pro-lasting solution is to persistent problems on ASUS and Nigerian students to embark on these national widers or demonstrations to block every nooks and crannies of the countries.
In Lagos, business operators lamented the impact of the strike on their businesses and called on authorities to address the teachers' demands.
This strike should commence. Even presently, when the students are not around, it's affecting us. And if they should start the strike, it will surely affect the business. More so, the students will be affected also.
So I sell in school premises, and this period is even hard for us that we are selling at this period because they are not in session. Sure, you understand, they are not in school. So not to talk of when they strike.
Education pending. Like now, I've spent close to this. I think this is my 6th year in this school or something like that. Yeah, and for there's one particular after the COVID section. It was just so crazy. I had to spend extra year at home. So anything about strike is never a good thing to hear.
Elsewhere in Borno, students of the University of Maiduguri appealed for the strike to be called off, saying that although the action has not started over there, it may eventually start if allowed to prolong.
Basically, I think we depend on oil based on what we've been hearing and then like this. Since we depend on oil and then they have the money, so I think they should utilize the money that they are having in that oil to invest into education. Because if they don't invest into this education, like you might just like end up training up quacks.
I beg ASU, please, and beg federal government too. They should please try and prioritize education, because everyone, since I was growing, they're like, you know what, the future. And then because everybody needs us.
With public tertiary education now grounded, many, especially students and parents, are hopeful that the issues that caused the strike will be resolved soon.
Now, the Congress of University Academics, CONUA, says it is not taking part in the ongoing nationwide strike by university lecturers. In a statement, CONUA's president, Ni Sumonu, dismissed reports that have been suggesting its involvement in the ongoing strike. He said the union is committed to maintaining academic stability through constructive dialogue and peaceful engagement with the government and other stakeholders. Sumonu urged Conwo members to continue performing their academic and administrative duties as expected. The union noted its formal protest following its initial exclusion from the renegotiation committee of the 2009 agreement between academic staff and the federal government, which was inaugurated in October 2024. Sumonu urged university vice-chancellors to ensure the safety and protection of Conwo members as they continue their legitimate duties. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, declared a 2-week warning strike from October 13th, citing years of unmet demands. The leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) on Monday warned the federal government to stop threatening members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) with its unproductive no work, no pay policy. The Congress specifically said it will not hesitate to mobilize all workers across the country, including those critical sectors, to paralyze economy if the government failed to heed the request of ASU. Joe Ajero, president of NLC, who stated this via a statement shared with journalists Monday night, called on the government to immediately set aside its threat against ASU and use a 2-week window to resolve all the issues. Trust TV reports that all branches of ASU across all universities nationwide have been directed to embark on a 2-week total and comprehensive warning strike to the government over unmet demands. The government, while banking on labor laws and some sections of the Constitution, subsequently threatened that it will invoke no work, no pay policy if the university teachers carried out their directive. Reacting to the development, Ajero said ASU's struggle is not a fight of university teachers alone, but a fight for Nigeria's future, insisting that any attempt to invoke its no work, no pay will be met with stiff resistance. Now moving on to more stories, Nigeria's Minister of Works, David Umahi, has defended the reported 7.5 billion naira per kilometer cost of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, insisting that the figure reflects the project's quality and unique features. Speaking during an inspection on Sunday, Umahi said the amount covers solar lighting, retaining walls, flyovers, and shoreline protection, adding that his integrity is at stake over the project's transparency. This comes after a heated exchange between him and Arise TV anchor Rufai Oseni during a live interview. The minister had clashed with the journalist after being questioned about the details of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway cost and progress. Umahi had previously avoided disclosing the project cost, leading to public backlash and demands for accountability. Now, in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, Nigeria's security, intelligence, and enforcement agencies sustained high operational momentum throughout September 2025, achieving major breakthroughs in the fight against terrorism, banditry, smuggling, and drug trafficking. This was disclosed during the monthly Joint Security Press Briefing, where issues surrounding the use of tinted glass permits and timelines for ending insecurity in the country were also addressed. Trust TV's Noel Sampson has more.
In September 2025, Nigeria's security and enforcement agencies intensified nationwide operations, carrying out 196 military missions that neutralized insurgents, rescued 76 kidnapped victims, and led to the surrender of 30 terrorists. Nigeria Police Force arrested 2,547 suspects, dismantled 37 criminal gangs, and recovered 250 million naira. The NDLA on its part seized over 212,000 kilograms of illicit drugs, while NAFDAC intensified its clampdown on fake medicines. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Customs Service generated 658 billion naira in revenue and improved trade facilitation. Other agencies also enhanced road safety, rehabilitation, and border control efforts. Anti-corruption agencies recorded notable achievements, as well as recovering 446 million naira and uncovering illicit mining operations linked to terror financing.
There's also the need to scale up in enforcement through sharper and intelligence-led operations. and also to scale up in collaboration by deepening coordination with local government, traditional institutions, and civil society groups.
Also speaking at the briefing were representatives of the Nigerian Police Force, Nigeria Army, and the Federal Road Safety Corps, who responded to journalists' questions on issues surrounding tinted glass permits, security challenges, and the alleged reckless conduct of some officers while attempting to stop motorists, particularly road safety officials.
That there is no court order stopping the enforcement of the tint permits out of consideration for Nigerians and out of respect for the Nigeria Bar Association after their visit to the police headquarters. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolegbedogun, instructed officers and men of the force to put enforcement on hold pending the outcome of the hearing that is coming up on October 16, just a few days from now.
Security is a recurring phenomenon which may not have a particular solution. Therefore, it will not be appropriate to say specifically that by so time or at so moment there will be no issue relating to insecurity in Nigeria.
Enforcement is not an easy thing on the road. There's something we say in the balance of the FRSC. We say enlightenment without enforcement is entertainment. And we are not on the road to entertain people. We are on the road to enforce traffic laws. Actually, those men on the road are well trained. But, you know, in every organization, we have people that oversee us. But I want to believe that they too, they don't want to die. I mean, those people that we just, you see a vehicle moving, maybe the vehicle has not stopped, and you just jump on the road. We advise them against that.
Despite the progress recorded, Nigeria continues to grapple with challenges such as mandatory, communal clashes, and smuggling. Security agencies say they are strengthening intelligence sharing, technology-driven operations, and citizen engagement to consolidate on recent gains. The briefing concluded that sustainable peace and stability will depend on stronger collaboration among citizens, the media, and institutions. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has reaffirmed the legislators' commitment to crafting policies and enacting laws that will strengthen Nigeria's petroleum sector for a more secure, efficient, and resilient economy. Represented by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu at the first annual Downstream Petroleum Week in Abuja, with the theme celebrating our successes, confronting our challenges, and finding solutions for the petroleum downstream sector, he said the forum would drive growth, transparency, and sustainable practices. The report.
The Speaker said downstream industry is witnessing a revival under President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, noting that the takeoff of the Dangote refinery marks a turning point in Nigeria's quest for energy self-sufficiency, adding that the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 has further reformed governance and boosted investor confidence in the oil and gas sector.
Solutions to energy security issues, pipeline vandalism, and dubious pricing, and policy clarity over certain regulations in the sector. As part of the larger energy transition, this conference is expected to develop a roadmap for sustainable energy practices and discover opportunities in new technologies that power solar, that wind, and hydroelectricity.
Chairman of the House Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, Ikenga Ugochinyere, said the committee is aware of recent labor concerns involving the Dangote refinery and sector unions, noting that while such issues are not uncommon in developing economics, they must not be allowed to undermine productivity or national stability. He urged labor unions and industry operators to prioritize dialogue over disruptions, adding that the committee is ready to facilitate peace, fairness, and mutual respect in all industrial engagements.
On labor issues, it must be noted that no reform can succeed without industrial harmony. The committee is aware of the recent labor concerns involving some of the refiners and sector unions, which While such action issues are not uncommon in developing economies, they must never be allowed to undermine productivity or national stability.
Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio, represented by Senator Oyelola Ashiru, said no nation achieves transformation without resolve, noting that the path to energy stability will be neither short nor easy, while emphasizing the need to control and confront smuggling, sabotage, and inefficiency in the distribution system.
Let no one imagine that journey to energy stability will be short or simple. There will be no moments of doubt, moments of difficulty, but if we stay the course, the result will be stronger, fairer, and more prosperous for Nigerian nation.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekperikpe Ekpo, acknowledged persistent challenges, including infrastructure deficit, market volatility, and regulatory uncertainty, calling for stronger collaboration between the executive and legislature, greater private sector participation, and adherence to global best practices.
Addressing this requires sustained collaboration between the executive and legislature, underpinned by sound policy direction and consistent implementation. It is also a call for enhanced private sector participation, investment in technology, and adherence to global best practices.
High point of the event was the Award of Excellence on deserving organizations for their contributions to sector groups.
And now on a sad note, 2 teenage siblings have drowned in floods following a downpour in Eligbolo community in Obio, Akpo local government area of Rivers State while trying to assist someone that was trapped in the flood. The 2 brothers, identified as Ima and Peters, were said to be between the age of 17 and 16 as at the time of their death. Residents of the area told Trust TV that the incident happened on Sunday after heavy downpour when the tide from the flood swept them away. According to them, the 2 siblings successfully assisted the person trapped to safety, but on their way back, Ima's footwear slipped off, and as they tried to retrieve it, the strong current swept them away. Meanwhile, some residents in the area blamed the tragedy on an overflowing canal along G.U.Ake Road in Obio Akpo local government area, which they said have caused constant flooding in the area, and called on the state government for assistance. Police spokesperson in Rivers State, SP Grace Iringe Koko, who confirmed the incident, said investigation was ongoing, even as she condoled with the families of the boys. Now, military personnel based in Mabai village of Kankara local government area have opened fire on repentant bandits returning from peace deal meeting in Kakumi village of Bakuri local government area of Katsina State. According to eyewitnesses, the military personnel ambushed the repentant bandits, killing 4, while several others escaped with gunshot wounds. Shortly after the military attack, the remaining bandits forcefully entered Mabai and other neighboring communities, shooting and leaving 3 people dead, while several others sustained gunshot wounds. Many describe the actions at the moment when communities are engaging the repentant bandits in dialogue as a serious setback to the actualization and sustenance of the fragile peace. Security experts warn that it is better to manage the fragile peace by allowing local communities to sign peace deal with bandits, advising the military to allow the process take its natural course. The latest peace deal was signed between communities of Kankara, Malumfashi, Denja, Afur, Funtua and Bakuri local government area of Katsina State, held at Kakumi village in Bakuri area. Kano State Shura Council on Monday held a closed-door session with Islamic cleric Malam Lawan Shuaibu Abubakar, popularly known as Triumph, to discuss allegations of blasphemy leveled against him by 5 Islamic groups. A meeting which took place at the Department of State Services office in Kano was convened to clarify statements attributed to the cleric and some viral videos that allegedly contained remarks considered derogatory to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Present at the session were the chairman of the council, Wazirin Kano, Saad Shehu Gidado, the secretary, Shehu Wada Sagagi, the Kano director of DSS, and several respected Islamic scholars who are members of the Shura subcommittee tasked with examining the matter. The council said although 9 issues were raised in the petition, 4 specific allegations were with verifiable evidence were selected for deliberation. The meeting ended with a resolution that the council would forward its findings and recommendations to the state government for appropriate consideration. And the federal government announced in April that no fewer than 1,249 communities in 176 local government areas across 30 states and the Federal Capital Territory are expected to experience heavy flooding between April and November 2025. In response, several states have commenced preventive measures, with some governments planning to evacuate residents from high-risk areas to minimize the loss of lives and property. In Benue State, however, authorities appear to be gradually winning the battle against perennial flooding, especially in Makurdi, the state capital. Trust TV's correspondent in the state in this special report captures the experiences of residents living in flood-prone communities. The report.
Benue State is home to one of Nigeria's major rivers, serving as an important source of water for both domestic and agricultural use. However, during the rainy season, the river often poses serious challenges, especially when rainfall intensifies and water is released from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon, causing overflow that submerges residential and commercial areas. Flooding, one of the most destructive natural disasters, had for years become a yearly occurrence in Benue, leaving behind widespread destruction, displacement, and economic losses. At the peak of past flood incidents, residents were often forced to abandon their homes, a means of livelihood, seeking refuge in safer areas until the waters receded.
This is the first year that water is not disturb us.
This year, however, residents say they are experiencing heavy rains without significant flooding, a development they attribute to the government's preventive measures, including the construction of a modern drainage and water control systems. According to the residents, the drainage system along Abukin-Shulwa Road and around the Wurukum Main Market has provided easy passage for stormwater, while the expanded drainage channel from the Ije community through Isha Baku Road now serves as a major waterway, preventing their neighborhoods from being submerged.
From the past years, water they enter our house, destroy our things, but for this season, we no experience that kind of thing. Even last year, the starting of this year, man, water disturb us small, but immediately as in do this water, we no experience that kind of thing again. Because even the table that we knock and put inside our room, we move it out.
We have been experienced a lot of flood during rainy season, most especially during rainy season. And most of the residents used to leave their homes to go and stay in other places, because when it's raining, you can't even stay in your home. In the compound, the compound will be filled with water. Even in your house, your electronics, all your belongings will be soaked in water. But for the help of these gutters that are recently constructed by the government of Benue State, there's a lot of changes. We are no more experiencing the flood like before.
During rainy season period, this particular place, those people that are in this area, they are not living in. Some people leave their houses. They went to some other place, stay with this till when rainy season finished, before they will come back to this area.
Beyond the relief from flooding, some business owners around these areas said the construction work has increased patronage to their businesses.
We are doing business in this particular place. Before, if rain fall, all my customers, they will not feel pass and enter my shop because of rainy season. But now, they can enter freely and eat their food and go successful.
The road is very, very smooth for everybody.
Residents are now appealing to the Benue State government to extend the flood control initiative to other communities equally vulnerable to seasonal flooding.
And now in business, the federal government's debt owed to electricity generation companies has risen to 1.05 trillion naira in the first half of 2025. This is the outstanding power subsidy payment to electricity generation companies covering the first and second quarters of the year. A report by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission's second quarter report for the 2025 showed that the government incurred a subsidy obligation of 514.35 billion naira in the second quarter of 2025, following 536.40 billion naira in the first quarter, bringing the total to over 1.05 trillion naira in the first 6 months of the year. This is coming at a time when the federal government was reported to have approved a 4 trillion naira debt to clear the legacy debts owed to the power generation companies. According to NERC, the rising obligation is due to the continued absence of cost-reflective tariffs, forcing the government to pay the difference between the actual cost of generation and what consumers are charged. NERC explained that for ease of administration, the subsidies only applied to the generation cost payable by DISCOs to the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC at source in the form of a DISCO's remittance obligation. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has disclosed that 11 crude oil cargoes offered to local refiners in a month were not taken up despite their repeated complaints about crude shortages. The chief executive of NUPRC, Benga Komolafe, who was represented by an official of the commission, Boma Atiye Goba, made this known during a panel session at the Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria Summit held recently in Lagos. According to Komolafe, while refiners had consistently raised concerns about the non-availability of the feedstock for local processing, the commission's records showed that crude oil was being made available under the domestic crude supply obligation. Using April as a reference, he said 48 barrels were made available for exports, out of which 21 were reserved for local refining, but only 10 were lifted by refiners. Explaining the reasons for the unclaimed cargoes, Komolafe said the matter was largely commercial and technical, and not that the oil was not available. He disclosed that 8 of the cargoes were rejected due to pricing differences and crude grade preferences among the refiners. World leaders have a deal to end the 2-year war that has devastated Gaza and killed thousands. The leaders of Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the U.S. signed documents that Trump says is going to spell out rules and regulations. Prior to the signing ceremony, Trump, after his stopover in Israel, arrived in Egypt, where world leaders gathered for a summit on Gaza. In his opening remarks, the U.S. president praised the leaders of Qatar and Turkey, singling them out for their efforts. He also thanked his Egyptian counterpart, calling him a fantastic man and a fantastic general. No other details were immediately available about the document that was signed. Egyptian President El-Sisi extends thanks to Trump as well as leaders of Qatar and Turkey and reiterated his support for the Gaza plan with the hope of creating the political horizon for the implementation of the two-state solution in the conflict, according to translated remarks. Hamas and Israel had earlier carried out a prisoner exchange deal under a Gaza ceasefire agreement that saw the release of nearly 2,000 Palestinians imprisoned in Israeli jails and 20 Israeli captives held in the Gaza Strip. Preliminary results from Cameroon's presidential election indicates that opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari is making significant inroads in areas traditionally dominated by incumbent President Paul Biya. Biya, 92, is facing 9 challengers, including former allies and cabinet members. Among them are Bello Baoba Megari and former Minister of Tourism and Bakari, who until recently served as Minister of Employment. Biya cast his vote at a primary school in Yaoundé, the capital, where he declined to comment on his plans, saying he would wait for the official results. Early jubilations from several commune councils across the country suggest that Bakari's party, the Front for the National Salvation of Cameroon, FSNC, is gaining ground against Biya's ruling Cameroon's People Democratic Movement. A journalist monitoring the process, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said Bakari, 79, was leading in multiple polling booths across Yaoundé's 7 commune provinces. It's now time for sports updates with Kabir Lawal.
Team Nigeria stamped their dominance at the African Para-Badminton Championships 2025, finishing top of the medal table with an impressive 36 medals, including 10 gold, 13 silver, and 13 bronze, as the competition concluded on Sunday at the International Conference Center, Umahi. The National Olympic Committee of Kenya came second with 11 medals, comprising 4 gold, 2 silver, and 5 bronze, while Egypt secured third place with 8 medals made up of 3 gold, 1 silver, and 4 bronze. Republic of Benin followed in the fourth with 5 medals consisting of 1 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze medals, while Congo Democratic Republic placed fifth with 1 gold, 2 bronze. Tunisia, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Burkina Faso, Rwanda, and Mauritius also featured in the medal chart, while Mozambique was the only country that did not secure a medal among the 12 nations competing in 19 events from October 7 to 12, 2025. Nigeria's gold medal heroes included the continent's para-badminton queen Eniola Bolaji alongside Chigozie Nnenna, Chukwuemeka Eze, Ijoma Chukwuemeka, Mary Nathan, Chinyere Okoro, to mention but a few. Still on sport news, once again, Nigerian football finds itself in the headlines for the wrong reasons, not because of the quality of play on the pitch, but because of chaos, poor officiating, and violence. Stakeholders say the ugly incident that marred Sunday's MPFL clash between Kano Pillars and Shooting Stars at the Sani Abacha Stadium must serve as wake-up call for league's administrators. They believe that while the violent conduct of some Kano Pillars fans deserves condemnation and appropriate sanctions, the role of incompetent officiating in igniting the tension cannot be ignored. Speaking on the sidelines of the incident, they said football thrives on fair play, discipline, and trust in officiating, noting that when referees fail to uphold these principles, they undermine the integrity of the game. They blame center referee Mohammed Tuta from Adamawa State Council and assistant referee 1, Ben Jaffet from Benue State Council for failing in their duties on Sunday, adding that the consequences were catastrophic. Their series of questionable decisions not only altered the flow of match, but also provoked frustration that boiled over into violence. That's Sport News. I am Kabir Lawal.
And that's a wrap on News Hour. Do not forget to follow us across all social media platforms for more programs, news, and documentaries. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. Thank you for watching.